Hello.
Greetings.
Well, let's start with Karl Lagerfeld.
It seemed as if he was making very bold statements in textiles and very conservative statements in cut, so that his cuts were very rectangular and less angular, and certainly I didn't see any curves, or very hardly any curves. And his use of sparkles, for example, is relatively infrequent in his work, and his use of more textured than usual fabrics makes sense because the colors he was going for involved gunmetal gray and other colors that he would associate, or people might associate very loosely, of course, with metals and high technology that's involved in, aeronautics and space engineering materials. When you look at modern and really hyper-modern and hyper-contemporary and post-contemporary designers, the work that they do always is nowadays much more involved in making a kind of commentary or offering a reflection to the times as they exist today, with like social media or the immediacy and the power and the vitality, if you like, of the sort of younger generations, etc., than it was with things like materials, Like, for example, as an example, in the 1970s, you had Calvin Klein and jeans like Jordache who were creating denim as a kind of new Eucharist of fashion. That was the material that you had to, once you imbibed it and once it was the body of Christ and you touched it, you were somehow, overcome, whether you were worthy or not. And jeans saved everybody from, the question of what do I do in this particular event? Is this a formal thing? Is this informal? Well, if it's formal and I show up in jeans, that means I can accessorize beautifully and I can play off the formality of other people, thereby making them in this party look very stiff. And if it's informal, I can also accessorize, but at the same time, I can kind of look up class. And jeans themselves became the material from which the entire generation was defined as far as fashion is concerned. Today, we can't say that, this generation is defined by the presence of a specific material the way it was. And we're looking for that material. It'd be lovely to find and be great to have. But I doubt very much that material science is going to come to the rescue of the fashion today. So we have to get other things going. And so why not then reach for the progressive industries? And the idea of aeronautics is probably the most progressive there is, because not only is it steeped in the exactitude of detail and the correctness of mathematical precision, but it's also steeped in the ambiguity and dreaminess of that aspiration that people have about what the future is or where I can myself go. It's probably the most romantic job anybody could ever imagine. And maybe some of the dreams about space travel can imbue the dreams of fashion and give a little something there. And I don't think I'm making too much of it. I just do think that, the worldliness of fashion and the otherworldliness of space travel can find a space of sharing. And that overlap is where people do think about being modern and being progressive.